What is up? What up? So, I'm gonna make this video is about something that is deeply personal to me. As I'm sure you can tell by the title of it, it is to do with rejection, right? And so this is, I believe it's gonna be called the gift of rejection. And so I wanted to talk about this because of something that happened today, a conversation that I had where it kind of came up. It just came up, right? Very nonchalant. I don't know if that's the right word, but anyway, so basically I have experienced a lot of rejection in my life. I mean, in different ways, at different times. And so this conversation came about, I was talking to somebody. I was actually teaching a yoga class. I was saying, like how I'm going to be starting my own yoga studio. And so the thing is, it's like, well, where are you going to start it? And I told this person, I was like, here in this town, Chilliwack, I feel called to not run away to some other town that already has an established spiritual community. I mean, maybe there is one here, but I don't know anything about it, and I'm certainly not a part of it. And so I was like, no, I want to be of service to this place right here. But some people do not like this town. They say, I have had my issues with it too because of the farming, because of the demographic. You get a lot of farmers and hunters and fishermen. I mean, it's not my thing, But I mean, there's a lot of good people here. Not that there's anything wrong with anybody who does any of those things. It's just not my crew, if you know what I mean. It's not what I resonate with. But, so there's all sorts of people here. And, I was just like, well, part of me just wanted to leave, to run away, go off to Mexico or something like that. Or, to Squamish, like where I said, there is a spiritual community somewhere else. But I feel called to stay here, and this person has a chip on their shoulder to do with this place. And so, and I could tell, I know this, and I could tell, and it's just like, it's just like, this person's just like said, it's just like, oh, that sucks. And it's just like, for who? You know what I mean? I mean, like, and I said, I was like, I have to take care of my own, I gotta follow my own path. I can't do things based on how anybody else feels about a place. It's just like, if you have a problem with some place, that's your issue, right? I mean, like, it says that you have something that you need to work through. It's just like, I said, I have to take care of my own self. It's like, I've come to realize in life that I am the only one who's watching out for me, right? So I've been developing a phrase over the last while, and it goes something like this. It's like, from the moment I realized that I didn't have anyone watching out for me, I started watching out for myself. And I don't mean in the spiritual sense. I mean in the physical, mental, and emotional sense. Like, you have to take care of yourself. If you do have other people who watch out for you and who, are there to really help guide you along and like to be there for you and support you on your journey, that's great. But you still need to take care of yourself. You still need to, you still need to take care of yourself, because like at the end of the day, your diet, your physical well-being, your diet and your exercise, it's up to you. and your mental well-being, what you expose yourself to, meaning like the books you read, the people that you listen to speak, the friends that you have, that's up to you. You know, nobody chooses that stuff but you. So you really have to choose who, or like, you know, so you choose those things because they will influence you. They have an impact on you, and then you can, it will have an impact on how you approach different situations, how you handle yourself in different situations, how you know, the logic that you use, the way that you react or respond to different things. I mean, your attitude, your mentality, all that kind of stuff, it's very much based on everything that you've come into contact with, and you know, that you've chosen to align with or not, and all that kind of stuff, right? So this is the thing, and it's just like, I just, like, you have to take care of yourself. And so for myself, I've walked this path in life, you know, which is the only one that I know. I don't know, you know, I just was born and here I am, right? That's it. Right? Do my best, just like everybody else, every day, you know, but, you know, with my own energy. So I really, you know, everything that I'm about. If you watch my videos, there you go. End of story. So, and the thing is, but over the course of my life, I have experienced a lot of rejection, you know, and rejection is part of it, you know. So like, for example, when I was young, I never fit in. I mean, even with like the guys that I hang out with now that I've known for a lot of my life, so some of them since like kindergarten, when we were in our late teens and early 20s and stuff like that, you know, like I was somebody who is easily overlooked. I'm somebody who is easily discarded. I am somebody who people do not take into consideration, who is not included, right? And it used to really hurt, because like sometimes I would do something with somebody else and then be like, hey, yeah, that was so much fun. And they would say, you were there? And I was like, be like, buddy, it was me and you, you know, and it would just hurt. It's just like, how do you not even like, how do you not even remember that I was there? You know, like my presence is so unfelt that it's just mind-boggling, right? And it was tough, you know. But and then moving on, like there was things that I wasn't included in, you know, in that same group too. There's so many times where there's a friend that I hang out at his place sometimes, and I can't even tell you how many times I've showed up just randomly, and there's a party going on, and it's just like, oh yeah, and everybody's there, and it was like, and then they're like, hey, why don't you come on in and say hi? And it's like, yeah, and I do, right? But it's just like, okay, you know, it's hard to not be like, why don't I ever get invited to stuff? I mean, it's weird, right? But I mean, I have my own way of relating this, and I'll come to that, right? But I mean, it's kind of, it was disheartening, certainly for a period of time, because I didn't understand it. I didn't know how to relate to it. And so, you know, certainly in relationships, I mean, I was married, and my wife walked out on me. One day she just disappeared, and it was just like, decided that it was over. I mean, was everything perfect with us? No. I mean, we fought like couples, you know, but I thought that it was all part of the process, and that we were learning to grow up and grow together. But you know, it was a complex scenario. There was like a lot of things that should have brought us together that ended up driving us apart, kind of like trips we were supposed to go on together that she bailed on, and then I still went on, and then she held it against me and resented me for doing what we planned to do together. But I was like, well, I'm still gonna go to India. I'm still going to Mexico, like I'm not bailing, and so it was hard, but got over it. I mean, it was very hard getting over that, my marriage. I mean, I was celibate for 7 years. I cried every day for like a couple years, and then for years it was horrible. I went into a shell. I became a shadow of a man for a period of time because I was so hurt that my partner walked out on me. It's just like, what? We were married, like how this is the opposite of what that was supposed to stand for. You're the thick and the thin, through all of it, the good and the bad, right? But whatever, learned a lot, really it was instrumental in kind of me blossoming as a person and learning some things about myself and my studies and things that I end up involving myself in, businesses and book writing and that kind of stuff, right? So that was a thing. It's not the hand you've been dealt, it's what you do with it. Life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, right? Or you figure it out. But so that was tough, and then when so at this point I sold my condo and I went traveling, and then I met these people. I thought it was the best. I moved to Vancouver and I had this crew of people, and it was so good. And there was just like a peak of time, and it was just like, oh, I'm doing so good. Yeah. I had a beautiful girlfriend and all these friends, and I had money at the time. I was staying in a mansion. There was like 9 people renting a mansion in like a ritzy neighborhood. So it was a really cool period of time in my life where I was able to just really focus on self-development and stuff. And it was just the best. And then things just fell apart. This woman accused me of doing something that didn't happen. Everybody knew it was not true, but nonetheless, everything fell apart. And then with the group of friends that I was with, I got somehow labeled as this scumbag who doesn't care about anybody or anything but himself and takes advantage of others because he's just an absolute piece of garbage. And then they cast me out as a group. They discarded me. They said, you're not worth it. You don't belong. You're, a person who we don't want to have anything to do with. Right? And it was heartbreaking. I was devastated by this because I thought I had finally found my sangha, my crew, my community. I thought that we were going to roll to the end like old people sitting back laughing about these times. Be like, remember when remember that time in that house, remember in the sauna that one time, oh my god, or up at the hot springs, right? And that's not how the cookie crumbled. And I was so hurt. I was so disturbed. I was so perturbed. I was so upset by what happened. I had no choice but to find inner peace. And I ended up essentially I found inner peace as a result because there was no other way. Either that or I would have lost my mind because I was just so shooken up by, I swear I'm the same person that I am now that I was then. I mean, sure, I'm more mature, more refined, but I'm basically the same large child-like person that I was and I've always been. I've always been basically who I am, just a bit more now, right? So it was brutes. anyways, so there was that, you know, like that was just the biggest rejection, not good enough. Same thing with this woman that I was with. It's just like, you know, it went from being deeply in love, we were going to do everything. She's like, you know, she comes, she's like, oh, I'm so sorry that, you know, it's been difficult. It's like, you know, I'm so sorry. Then the next day it just all blows up, and it's just like to be discarded like a piece of garbage, you know, to be walked over, you know, trampled through the mud, put through the ringer and hung out to dry. And then maybe when you're dry, lit on fire. You know what I mean? Just to add injury to insult. And it was brutal. It was a brutal time, but I got through it, right? And so, you know, this has been, I had, when I was a young man, I had a friend who, I worked at a lumber mill, and then he, one day he borrows my motorbike, and then he goes to his house and he robs his own house. He goes into his dad's safe and he steals some things, who is now in spirit now. So at least he knows the truth, the father, you know, and that brings me a little bit of solace right there, just because it's like, I know that on the other side, they become aware of these things immediately. And so, because a neighbor saw the bike there and I got blamed for the whole thing, and I took the fall for it all, and then I had all of this hate directed from me, and this person never fixed the situation. They never came clean. They never sorted it out. And it was brutal, you know, being hung out to dry like that, you know. And another time too, I had, like, these are my best friends that have had, that this is what I have gone through. Before that, there was a guy who hung out every day, homies, you know. We would listen to, you know, it'd be like, oh, I got the new Eazy-E album, or like the new Bone Thugs and Harmony album. We were both into that, metal and rap. It was awesome. But then one day he calls me, he's just like, you're dead. He's like, where are you? He's like, I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, you robbed my house, you stole my stuff, you're a dead man. I was like, what on earth are you talking about? And then he blamed me for robbing his house. And then he chased me down with his brother. They tried to beat me up. I ended up getting away. And anyways, and then this guy got caught with all of the stuff because he robbed his own house. And that was our relationship. He recently reached out to me. It was just like, hey man, I'm really sorry for what I did to you. You know, and anyways, so it's coming full circle. And the way I relate to that is that I'm somebody who is strong enough to have an experience like that and to find my way with it. So it's not about me. It's about allowing somebody else to go through a process that they need to. And so that's how I have related to it. And I've always felt that way as well. I mean, it was hard, but you know, when you know something isn't about you, because when people behave like crazy, that ain't you, right? Towards you, it ain't you. It's something they're going through. So really tough. I mean, I had other friends before that too sell me out. My best buddy from elementary school, one day he went to school and told some people that I was talking about them behind their backs. And then all of a sudden I had all these people that wanted to fight me. And I ended up fighting one of these guys. And then it was a draw. Nobody won. And then some other guy just jumped out of nowhere and sucker punched me. And then, you know, it was problems until I befriended a guy that was huge, right? And this dude, he's like, all right, he's like, what's going on? And he's like, where are these guys? And then we went and found him, and he's like, it stops now. And they were just like, okay, because he was a big guy, you know, like, and he had a lot of friends. He was a big popular guy, and so very quickly, you know, all of a sudden the tables turned. but still, it's just like, why do I get sold out? I mean, like, why? Like, what is it about me that is so useless, that is just like, I'm not somebody who is worth maintaining a relationship with. I'm not somebody who anybody is going to defend my integrity. You know, that's what the problem was with these people in Vancouver. It's just like, hey, you know, normally when there's an accusation, you ask questions. You don't just like, you ask questions, and you know, if people be like, hey, no, that does not at all sound like what that person stands for, what they do, I don't believe it at all. They defend your integrity. And that was the opposite of what happened. These people hung me out to dry, and they all just bought into this thing. And it has come in time to be that, like, the people who were doing the accusing were actually doing heinous things behind people's backs, sleeping around, screwing other people's girlfriends, and just like real narcissistic. And you know, I was just, what do you call it, a casualty of war. You know what I mean? And so, okay, I got through it all. I got through all of this stuff and came out the better, because it's not the hand you get dealt, it's what you do with it, right? And so, so this is the thing. It's just like, so there are those instances, and then there's also like, you know, there have been a bunch of times in my life where, you know, when I really need people, where I have, you know, I don't ask for help often. I don't call on people for anything. I try to be very self-sufficient and only reach out, it's like, if I really need it. But I have been turned away every single time that I have asked for help, which when I have pleaded with somebody, be like, hey, I'm in a jam here, I need some help. Like one time I was involved in some gang stuff back in the day, and I didn't know what to do when things turned sideways on something that I was involved with. And I went to somebody that I was close to, and they're just like, well, what do you want me to do? And I was just like, I don't know. And then I just left. You know, it's like no support at all. Just more like, just go away. Like, get away from me. You're not welcome here. Please leave. This is the welcoming that I get from people. And like, and then when that played out, like I had to take the rap. I took the blame for something. I was one person that was involved in something that happened, and the person who told us to do it wasn't their fault. The other person that I did it with wasn't their fault. It was my fault. I was the fall person. I was the person that was to take the blame. I was the person that had to do things, that had to pay the price, that had to make everything right. And it was ridiculous. I lost all of my worldly possessions at that point in time in my life. And that was, it was challenging. I mean, but I got through it, right? It was a time in life, you know. It led up to me being homeless, scared, running from these people, and sleeping in fields. I mean, just out of my mind, not knowing what to do. Because this is me we're talking about. The person that you're looking at right now, this is me. And it's just like, oh my God, what on earth has happened to me in my life? I don't know how I'm going to get out from here. And I was lying in a field under some potato sacks, trying to stay warm at night, looking up at the stars, and I had an epiphany where I realized that at that moment was no different than any other moment in my life. And I had the ability to make a change, to do something different. And so next morning I got up and I walked to another town, and I started to piece my life back together. So it all, coincided with a sort of a spiritual awakening that took place, and it was beautiful, right? But I mean, it was beautifully frightening. It was dramatic, to say the least. Traumatic, not so much, because I kind of understood it on a level, when you have that kind of an epiphany. But that was tough, just being turned away and just being shunned, like somebody. There's a thing too, there was another conflict that was going on with some people, and I was standing in the driveway with somebody, and some friends drove by, and it was like, oh, hey, there's those guys. And they're like, oh, well, you were pointing us out to some other people so that, and made me out to be this bad guy. And it's like, I didn't do anything. Just a stupid kid standing there. They just said, oh, hey, there's Buddy. Not like, hey, go attack that person. Gives, when somebody doesn't give you the benefit of the doubt, when they assume the worst things about you rather than the opposite, it was hard. And I had to, in order to make peace, I had to apologize. I had to own up to what I did or didn't do, and then apologize for it and say, hey, I'm sorry for what here. And it was the same thing with my wife. She hated me after our divorce. So I was like, wow, she wanted me to apologize. And at first I was like, for what? We were kids. We were learning. We were growing. I mean, what do I apologize for? For being a human? For doing my best, for my best not being enough? I mean, for not knowing what I'm doing because I'm a child? I mean, what should I... So it dawned on me, it's like, okay, it's like, clearly this means something to her. So I humbled myself and said, okay, I'll just apologize to her in the best way that I can, because clearly it means something to her. So rather than making it about myself, I wrote out a list. It was like a couple pages of everything I could ever think of that I had ever done that was out of integrity, and be like, hey, I'm sorry for that time that this happened. I'm sorry for this. I'm sorry for that. Sorry for that. And then I wrote the most heartfelt poem ever at the time. It was my... the reply I got back was, this isn't good enough. This is all about you. This is all just about you thinking about yourself. And it was just like, Jesus Christ. I mean, it's like, if that don't make you happy, I don't know what will. I mean, or not make you happy, but, figure of speech, if you can't see in between you can't read in between the lines, I mean, it doesn't matter what I say. It eventually went back and forth with a bunch of nasty emails that she sent me. She called me a phony. She's like, oh, you and this fake spiritualist persona that you're pretending to all this kind of stuff. And I was like, woman, you are going to eat your words one day. You don't know anything about who I am or what I've done with my life since we were together. How dare you speak to me in that way? She called me, she said, oh, you're a zombie that won't die. You're a demon that crawls up invading the walls, crawling up the walls of my dreams. It was just some nasty things. It was just for me, it was all good. We were just kids figuring it out. It was just so hard for somebody to have such harsh feelings towards you it just really, really frustrating. But I mean, you get through it. All this kind of stuff you get through. And you let go. You don't make it about yourself. You don't take it to heart. You don't. And you get through this stuff anyways. So that's all great. But there was another time. So talking about just not mattering to people. You know, like when I sold my, like when I lived in Vancouver in that house, I had my birthday, I think it was my 40th birthday party, and it was just like I was at an absolute peak. I had money, I had a beautiful girlfriend, I lived in a mansion with all these people, I had all these friends, I felt so good, I was so free and so happy. I was writing a book about spirituality. It was just like, oh my God, my life is just like blossoming. This is it, finally, you know, through everything that I've been through, it's actually coming together. This is amazing. I invited everybody to come, everybody that I knew from Chilliwack, all my friends and stuff like that, and family, and not one single person came. You know, the people that were in Vancouver came, you know, like the people that I was hanging out with at the time. But from here, not one person. Everybody had some reason. You know, some of the guys I was closest to, they're like, yeah, let's go. And then they're like, oh, I just don't feel like it. It's just like, you know? But forgiveness, right? I don't need anything outside of myself to be at peace with what happened. Let it go. It's okay. Everybody's human, right? Okay, fine. You know, prior to that, I was living in a condo. I had my condo. That's how I got that money, because I like bought it when I was married, and then wife left. It was worth nothing. Eventually, the market went up. It was worth a little bit of change, and I sold it. So there was like my party to sell my house. So I was about 5 years into my book at the time, and it was like, hey, yeah, my life is getting better. Hey, everybody, come to this party, yay. You know who came? One person from work. You know? One person. And then the guy that was supposed to help me move out the next day bailed on me. And I had to get my old man, my dad, you know, he was in, I don't know, it's probably like 65 at the time. And he had to come and help me move like this few 100-pound bed, like all this stuff into a truck. It was horrible. You know, he has a bad back. He's not in shape. You know, like it was just horrible just to have this is like what's the phrase, with friends like that, who needs enemies, right? But whatever, let go of it, right? Let it go, move on. Don't get jaded as a result of this stuff that happens, right? That's the important thing in it all. Do not become jaded because of this stuff. Don't close down. Don't close your heart down. Don't develop negativity because of this stuff. This is the key, right? And so I was born with this ability. And so I think this is why I experience stuff like that. Also too, like with my mother, we got taken from my mom at 5 years old and moved to this town. And I always understood that she had a really severe case of OCD. Like, you clean everything with bleach and everything, and then you can't touch it or else it'll be dirty. And then, like, it was a real scenario. So it wasn't healthy for us to be there. And like, but I always understood it. Like I was saying, like, she had some serious issues. So it wasn't like she didn't abandon us, right? I mean, we were taken from her, and she spiraled. It was horrible. You know, she lived on the streets for 20 years. I mean, she wasn't into drugs. She was, you know, she was like myself. You know, she was intelligent. She was compassionate. You know, she would say, you know, I wrote on her obituary thing, a quote from her is, "I choose to stay living in the streets until the rest of mankind has a roof over its head." right? Like she was that kind of a person, but she was also dealing with some trauma, and it was manifesting as a disorder and this and that. So really, really challenging stuff. But I remember as a child, my sister would say, like, does mom even love us, Josh? I'd be like, Sky, this is my older sister. Like, that she's that it's not about you, right? You're just making this all about yourself. Of course she does. It's the issue is more complex than that, right? I mean, you have to take these factors into account, and of course you do exist, right? But it's like you gotta step back and look at it. You can't just like come at it like, well, me. And so it was interesting, like two siblings were 21 months apart, but like she had her way of relating to it, I had mine. So like I said, I was born with the capacity to look at things in the way that I do, as she was as well, right? So there's that. And it was really frustrating because I've over the years had girlfriends be like, oh, well, you must have abandonment issues because of this. And it's just like, it's called projection, where they think, okay, well, this is how I would have related to that circumstance or situation. So therefore you must have these repressed emotions, you have this dark side, and it's just like, hey, stop projecting that stuff onto me. When I tell you where I'm at, I even when to bring further clarity to this, I was on the path of plant medicine for many years, and I went down to Peru to a ayahuasca retreat just south of Iquitos, and the Avatar Center my friend owns, and she and when I in ceremony, I asked Mother Ayahuasca specifically, be like, am I missing something here? Do I have this deep repressed, abandonment issues? And the answer was a no. Be like, you would know. You would know was the answer. You would be able to tell by your behavior, by your attitude, your mentality, by your how you handle yourself. You would be the kind of you might be a violent person, you'd be lashing out, or you would be angry, and it's like, I'm none of those things. I'm in general cool as a cucumber. I mean, that's my thing. I'm like a big child. Just having fun, right? That's me, That's me, right? So challenging, when somebody tries to make it out like they know you better than you know you, right? It's just like, what? Ugh. So that was challenging, right? And another thing too, it's like, so now I'm becoming a yoga teacher, and it's just like, I live and breathe this stuff. I walk it and I talk it. And so I've said to people, like, hey, I'm becoming a yoga teacher. They're like, oh, it's so cool. It's like, yeah, I'm going to teach my class. And people come, oh, yeah, I'll definitely come. So the time has come. And guess what? I've reached out to everybody. And a whopping 2 people have said, okay, like have actually reached back. And I was like, hey, let me know if you can make it. 2 people, right? So far. And it's like, it's the same thing with like, I had another birthday that was the same thing, like just not worth it, and it was challenging. It's been challenging over the course of my life, trying to understand. It's like, why, like, come on, like, throw me a bone here, life. Like, I'm putting in the effort. But the thing is, and this is sort of what all of this is coming around to, is that is the bone. Rejection is the bone. You're being given the biggest bone, right? There's actually double meaning there. It's kind of funny. Not on purpose, right? Because it's, anyways. But it's like, it's a gift. Rejection is a gift, because if I hadn't walked this path, if I hadn't experienced this epic level of rejection, if I had friends that were supportive, if I had family that was supportive, if I had relationships that were supportive, if I had lovers that were supportive, then I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't, I may have become complacent. I may have been just happy with where I was at, and I wouldn't have strived for more. If I felt like I belonged, if I felt like I was a part of something, if I felt like I was needed, like I mattered to anybody else, then my life would be different. But because that's not been my experience, like, I know my worth, believe me. I mean, if you've heard me talk about stuff, believe me, I know my worth. It's not a matter of that. But, as a result of all of this stuff, because I don't fit in, because I don't belong, because I don't, seem to matter to people. And I don't mean that nobody cares about me, but there's a difference between be like, oh yeah, I love you and I care about you, and there actually being a manifestation of that, like a physical expression, like people come to visit you. I guess I think how part of this conversation came about was because I was talking with this person and about this town, and I was like, nobody visits me. I've lived here for years. My dad lives 5 minutes away and he's never visited me. Like in all of the places that I've lived, he's come and visited me once. In all of these years, I've probably visited him 100 times. And it's just like, why don't you make an effort? None of my family members, even though my aunties and my cousins, even the person that I'm talking about comes to Chilliwack and they don't connect with me because they're busy, because they're doing other things, because all kinds of reasons or excuses or whatever word, suits you for that one, but just couldn't, there was just no time, and just, I can't see everybody or this or that or blah, 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 right? And it's just like, okay. Same thing with friends too. Like, I visit all of my friends frequently. Nobody ever calls me or wants to have anything to do with me, right? I mean, and that's a good thing. This is what I'm getting to. It is a good thing, because as a result of it, because that has been my experience. I don't like it. It's not what I choose, but it has been my experience. And as a result of it, I am doing everything that I can to be a force, or like a person who helps to foster community, who helps to bring people together, who will provide a space for people to feel welcome, to feel needed, to feel like they're a part of something, to feel like they're doing something that is special, to feel like they're special, and on and on and on, right? So, once again, it's all of this stuff, yeah, but I'm not a victim. I don't have a victim mentality. It's not the way that I'm wired. And so as a result of it, I am who I am, and I get to, because I don't have a Sangha, I don't have the community that I'm looking for, I'm going to create the community. Or not create it, it's already there, but I'm going to be something that helps to bring it together, like a hub, like in a wheel, where it's the hub that essentially helps, or it joins the things, the centerpiece. So, I mean, I would like to be a part of that, right? That is certainly the idea that I'm going to promote, and all of these things. Yeah. So, I would just say to anybody else who is experiencing rejection, who doesn't feel like they matter, I would say, the way that I approach this is like, you're being You know, like how diamonds are made, pressure and time and pressure and heat, but you're being transformed. You're being cultivated, you know, from another level. You're being guided from another level. It is a gift. Learn to receive it. You know, find a way to approach it or perceive it in a way. Always look for the positive in it. You know, it's okay to recognize the challenge of it all. You know, don't discount the fact that you are human and that some things aren't the best, and like you, but use it as motivation to propel you in new directions, and to, you know, to really find your people. You know, if you don't fit in, it's okay. You know, that is exactly what you need to do, is to not fit in, and that's what's going to drive you to, you know, you don't want to be a puzzle piece that doesn't belong. You know, it's like, because I guarantee you there are people out there who do appreciate you, who do appreciate what you stand for, what you believe in. They like what you bring to the table, you know. And so this is like, for myself, I know this about myself. Just because who I am and what I say and what I do doesn't necessarily resonate with the people that are in my immediate vicinity, it doesn't mean that what I am and who I am and what I represent isn't valuable and isn't needed by others all over the place, right? So hang in there, and I guarantee you, you know, when it comes to fruition, you know, like it's been many years for me, and sometimes it's like, why? But then it all makes sense, and then you're like, thank you. And yeah, so hang in there, you know, have faith. Faith is putting trust in something that you can't put your finger on, but you know, on another level, you can feel it, that there is something to this. And so you have to have faith. And, you know, you also have to have boundaries. You also have to, because you can't, if you let people walk all over you, then you can't say that you love yourself. You have to love yourself. You have to have boundaries, you know, live your life by a set of principles. And it will come full circle. So good luck. Not that I believe in luck, but you know what I mean, figuratively speaking.